I be one west to the death till they bury me. One west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. They ain't scaring me. Rip the soul out of Pharisee. Speaking heresy and get you fucked up apparently. It's like they daring me. I said chill, they ain't hearing me. They ain't listening. Every bar nitroglycerin. Hit your heart, bring it back to start, make you live again. Get them dividends so we start getting ignorant. I be on that soldier shit. I'm told you shit phenomenal. Nominally a domino. So what you fucking trying to do? Rhyming comical. This is funny until I'm bombing you. Bring apocalypse to them pussy niggas that's popping shit. Team of all stars. I coach them up like I'm Popovich. Fuck the politics and the lobbyists and apologists. They vagina so we gon' check them like gynecologists. It's kinda obvious how the situation is ominous. The way I rhyme this and regurgitate for the audience. They start applauding this cause the competition is fraudulent. From the era when niggas smoke you up like a parliament. The flow been stupid. Shit has gotten retarded since all the dominance of one west rising to prominence. Cause I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. They want a nigga quiet, mute my maneuvers, but I ride like I got group lines for Uber. Rhymes hard like they've been viewed by Medusa. 9 million Luger, 17 in the Ruger. Only need a few to sit up in your medulla. Obrigada, put a regatta, niggas wildin', they win every dollar. They riding by black Apollos, let the semi holler. The showstopper, been the rapper since the titty bopper. But now I'm going off patrol, the premium of vodka. I put extensions on the Glock, modify the chopper. The small heavy war ready and that's working mama. No marijuana, say I got the loudest silence on it. When I'm up on it, ain't no rapper do it like I do it. A lot of spitters and writers, but when the heat's on, none of them can get to the fire around with me. And I had a nigga spin like a tire, down the beat. And I'm still dope as a piper. Every bar burn hard like a spoon with a lighter. Fuel igniter, I'm winning, coming through with the title. Cause I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. From the dust to the dawn outside. So when I'm going outside, don't catch your breath when they drawing outside. Cause it's a war outside. My sword's drawn outside. This Excalibur, you better be all outside. Cause it's a war outside. I get it on outside. You in the crib, but the war outside. I get it on outside. That's a definite. Cannonball, wrecking shit. Excellent. Rhyme for rockin', rhyme like the president. I remain strong. King Kong with the prevalence. I show you exactly what we do. That's how I represent. Hardcore, heaven sent. Chain off, elephant, throwing all black when they spot me like the leopard print. Oh, I got the brazen shades on, made men.
This place is going to be cracked where the children of the Lord shall be one word and one name.
On Thursday, April 9th, 2020 at sundown, we're going to be holding the Lord's 51st annual Passover.
I ain't a
York, 10606. $100 for all adults 17 and over. Kids are for free. Start sending in your funds today. For booking information, check us out on the ISUP page, 51st Annual Passover Facebook page. More updates will be available soon. Last but not least, Israel, Commandant General Yohana will be accepting men willing to stand for the Hebrew Academy 2020. The Lord, 51st Annual Passover.
Bluetooth disconnected.
Shalom, Israel. We are ISUPK coming to you. We're the ISUPK, and we've been bringing this truth to our people since 1969. The Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, and we are under the commandership of Commanding General Yohana, who's under the commandership of Yahushua, our King. And the truth that we've been bringing into the world is that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives are what? In fact, the true Israelites of the Bible, from Genesis all the way to Revelation. They are the true Israelites of the Bible, the children of the Most High. I'm Officer of 1,000, Mashah, coming to you from the Detroit camp. This is the Monday history class. This is the Monday history class, and the officers above me make sure I understand and keep a clear understanding of how important our history is. And that's why they've given, we have a history class every Monday. You need to know where you come from. Your history doesn't begin on the shores of this land with you coming off of some cargo slave ship. That's part of it. And there's reason behind that. But your history doesn't begin there. That's where they've been taught in this country. If you go to school, and that's interesting, you know, we do upset people. But if you go to school, they only teach you that the history of the so-called Negro, the black man and black woman, begins on the shores of this country or the shores of Africa with cargo slave ships. And our history is much older than that. Our history is much older than that. Last week, we brought we was looking at the subject of traitorous leaders, and we're not talking about anybody else's. We're talking about ours, Israelites. Traitorous leaders. Why? Because that's who has us in the position we are today. And we got a lot of people today that want to lead Israelites. They want to be the leaders. They call themselves senators and congressmen. They call themselves preachers and lawyers. Some of themselves call themselves entertainers and sports icons. But what we wanted to do, and we get shocked. We actually get shocked when we find out a leader is traitorous. But it's been our history. Last week. And we're going to recap from last week and bring you on up to date. Last week, we took a look at 3 leaders out of the Old Testament, 3 leaders that are considered or proven to be traitorous. that have proven to be traitorous. And the first one we're going to go to, we're just going to go over it real quick. 1 Kings, just so we go ahead and get these precepts again. 1 Kings 11, starting at the 4th verse. Is that right? Try this again. 1 Kings 11 and 4. Okay. Here's the first traitorous leader we had that I pointed out. He probably wasn't the first one. This is the first one we pointed out last week. We're just going over quickly. 1 Kings 11 verse 4. And for those of you who still have a Christian bend about you, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt because you ain't going to believe this one. 1 Kings chapter 11 verse 4 says, "For it came to pass when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father." It goes on in verse 5 to say, "For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Amorites." Solomon was a traitorous leader. At this point in his life, he was traitorous. The rest of the scriptures include verses 11 through 13 and verses 29 through 39. Write those down, get them in your precept book when you're looking at traitors, you know, because Christians they're gonna raise hell when you tell them Solomon was a traitor, you know, a traitorous leader. He led the people away from the Most High. Let's look at 1 Kings 12. We'll look at 1 Kings 12, and let's go down to the 25th verse, starting at the 25th verse. This is the second king we looked at. "Then Jeroboam built Shechem in Mount Ephraim, and dwelt therein, and went out from thence, and built Penuel." Verse 26, "And Jeroboam said in his heart, Now shall the kingdom return to the house of David." Now let's get a little backstory on this Jeroboam. The Most High had given him 10 tribes of Israel, made him king over 10 tribes, and he separated Judah, Benjamin, and some Levites, and those few who stayed in Jerusalem. They separated them from the rest of Israel, and Jeroboam is the king over the larger part of Israel. But he has some fear come over him, and he said in his heart, "Now shall the kingdom return to the house of David." Let's see what the fear was about. Verse 27, "If this people go up and do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem." Jeroboam said if Israel, the other 10 tribes, when it came time for them to go sacrifice and to pay homage to the Most High and to do those things that the Most High required them to do, if they go to Jerusalem and do this, Jeroboam said that their heart will be turned back to the kingdom. Their heart will be turned, and they'll want to be back under the rulership of the house of David. And he didn't want this to happen. "Then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, small e," meaning the king over Judah, "even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah." This man said, this leader of the larger part of Israel, said in his own heart that if these people go to Jerusalem for the Passover, if they go make their sacrifices at the temple in Jerusalem, then that's going to turn them away from me and to Rehoboam, the king of Judah. when he should have been more concerned that the people's heart turns back to who? The Most High. Verse 28, whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. This is just like our leaders. This is nothing new. He tells the people, look, the trip to Jerusalem is too arduous. It's too hard. Some of you sisters are pregnant. You know, you got small children. The brother ain't going to be able to keep his business open while y'all going to Jerusalem. So I'll tell you what you do. Since it's too hard for you, we ain't got to take this real serious, but I'm going to make up some calves here. And let these be your gods, the Most High understand. And he set one in Bethel and put the other in Dan. And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. Salakia Israel. Even unto Dan. This thing became a sin. What Solomon did was he went chasing. Now Solomon was a star, so you know if he go chasing after other gods, other people are going to go chasing after other gods. This king, Jeroboam, what does he do? In the vein of Aaron, he built golden calves. After the manner of Aaron, he built golden calves. He puts one in Bethel and puts one in Dan and tell the people these are their gods. And so he just right out caused the people to worship another god, turn them directly away from the Most High. Traitorous. We're going to look at one more. Let's go to 1 Kings. And I'm not sure how deep we went into this fella, but this fella here. 1 Kings, let's do 1 Kings chapter 16. And let's start at the 28th verse. So, 1 Kings 16, 28. So Omri slept with his fathers and was buried in Samaria, and Ahab, his son, reigned in his stead. They had a king over Israel named Omri. And when he died, his son Ahab took over. Verse 29. And in the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, began Ahab the son of Omri to reign over Israel. And Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. Now, Ahab had a decent reign. You know, in America, the president is the president for a maximum of 8 years. But Ahab is the king for 22 years. Verse 30. And Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of the Lord above all that were before him. Now look who came before him. Solomon came before him when he had the whole of Israel up under him. And when he was old, he turned away and went after other gods to please his wife. And his stardom, just like the stardom of the stars today, for sure caused other folks to follow after them, you know, to follow after him. The same thing happened with Solomon, but the Bible is saying Ahab did worse than that. Here's Jeroboam, who made gods to the children of Israel, to the 10 tribes, and told them These two calves now are your gods, and deliberately turned them away from the Most High. And yet Ahab, the son of Omri, verse 30, did evil in the sight of the Lord above all that were before him. Are you listening? This cat did more evil. Verse 31, and it came to pass, as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Zidonians, and went and served Baal and worshiped him. And worship him. As if it was a light thing, he married the daughter of the king of the Zidonians and went and worshiped their God. Do you know? He said he served Baal. He went and served Baal. But Baal and Ashtoreth go together. How do we know? Well, we're talking about the Zidonians, right? Go back to 1 Kings. He did the same thing. He did the same thing Solomon did. 1 Kings 11. First Kings 11 and 4. Starting at verse 5. Go to verse 5. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians. And Ahab, over in 1 Kings 16, in verse 31, and it came to pass as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Zidonians, and went to serve Baal and worship him. And verse 32, he reared up an altar to Baal in the house of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. So the goddess of the Zidonians is Ashtoreth, and the god of the Zidonians is Baal. And so these kings in the Old Testament, they were traitorous to the people. This Jezebel, this wife of Ahab, wanted to put all the prophets to death. He gave her full, spiritual reign over Israel. She could do whatever she wanted to. Had our people running from and chasing religion rather than just live our culture. This is what our leaders did. If you look at this, our leaders, when the Most High told us don't chase after other gods, don't do what those people do, none of that. So he didn't give us a religion, he gave us a culture. That's what we see here, and what you see these kings doing is chasing after religions. Chasing after religions of other people. This is what all the other people in the earth do. They all chase after religion, got these made up religions. We have a culture. And what each one of these kings did was take us away from our culture. And we went into depth on each one of them, Solomon, Jeroboam, and Ahab, on last week. Now let's pick it up. We're going to go to 1 Maccabees 2. And we're going to start around the 29th verse. 1 Maccabees 2, 29. We want to look at, here's some more leaders. some more leaders. This is what happens, and again, this is a history lesson for us. Why? Because of who the leaders. This is important because of the leaders you are going to pick for yourselves, and you're in the process of picking on a daily basis for yourselves. You know, it's so many of us got our ears glued and eyes glued to the televisions and the radios and the telephones, cell phones and the internet, watching what the outcome of the elections are going to be and the election process and what's going on with these politicians and these folks in the news today. So many of us. The Christian church got us, and I say us, I'm not talking about those of us in the ISUPK. I'm talking about Israelites all over the globe. Israelites everywhere, regardless of what tribe they're from. We are glued to the political process wherever we are. Why? These past kings. It's always been our history to chase after some other system. Ever since Eve. And we see it here. Solomon when he gets old. And it's always about religion. Religion creeps in somewhere. Why? Because the other nations, historically, use their forms of religion to establish some moral code among themselves. Because left to themselves, they would devour each other. So they say they have to have a religion. And this is their moral code. But their religion, all religion, is corrupt. But that's what we chase after. So it's not going to work. All we have is the law, statute, commandments of the Most High. Shalom, Israel. Salakia. Shalom, Lord Christ. Salakia, Israel, give me 1 second. We're going to take a pause and then we're going to be right back.